Try any of the songs from Circadian and drop C? Nah. Do you speak Japanese? No, I wish though. Nah, it sounds lazy in drop C. That's the thing about keys, eh? It's like, you know, you can have a dope riff, but I think key speaks to the emotion so much more, conveys an emotion in a way that's like, I see this often, like when guys make beats, you know, they'll start in a particular key or whatever, and then like at some point in the process they'll flip it. And I get that if you're working on something like a loop or something for an hour, and maybe you need like a new perspective on it, or maybe you're feeling like, okay, this isn't the correct key. I totally get that. I have such a hard time with, once I've developed like the identity of an idea, like changing its key, unless I intuitively feel like it's necessary. But I struggle with that. And it's not a bad thing. I think it's just that when I pick a key for something, I have a reason for that. I think guitar players that make music where the guitar is a focal point, I think that that's like a very deliberate thing, right? I'm choosing keys based on physically what's available, you know? So like I'll think about, so if I'm in drop C, right, I'm thinking about the, you know, the relationship of the low strings. And in a major context, there's a couple ways to do this. That would be my minor key center chord, right? So then that would be C major, so that would put us in A minor. Right? C major. Okay? But you could also think about it, and this is probably more atypical of like the prog realm, to think about the C major chord, like the 4 chord instead of the 1 chord, then you get the Lydian sound, right? Which puts us here, right? So that would be E minor, right? 6 chord, 5 chord, and D, right? So we still get C major, but we get a sharp 4. Versus, right? It's like Ocarina of Time versus Happy Birthday. They're very different, right? Right? Completely different sound. That has a way different impact on your ear. Right? But this is also just as valid, coming at it from the perspective of A minor and having that really warm resolution on C. It just depends on what it is that you're trying to do. But with that comes along all of the way, you know, the options in terms of how the instrument is tuned. So certain keys lend themselves to open strings. For example, if I'm playing in C minor, I don't really get the benefit of like the high E and the B, right? I love this, right? In this key it would be B minor. Right, but an inherent flaw of all of the things that are cool about this particular key is that it puts me on the 11th fret in terms of my orientation, right? And in relation to the open string, it's almost null and void unless I'm playing like Phrygian or something. But even then, the flat second isn't necessarily a degree you want to be able to kind of like pull off to or rely on in terms of like a riff sort of center, if you know what I mean, from a physicality standpoint. So, you know, for me, if I'm going to use this, like these types of sounds, right, which is beautiful, I would prefer to actually have this string tuned up. And this is where standard tunings are great, of course, is because the relationship here, if this is my 6th chord, right, 7th fret on the 5th string, right, wouldn't it be nice if it wasn't that? Wouldn't it be nice if it was that? So that's where, you know, utilizing like a strategic approach to picking tunings comes from. Then, of course, or picking keys, I should say. And then the tuning allows you to then move that key into an emotional range. So right here, I'm in drop C, which puts this at B minor. But in standard tuning, that would be C sharp, which gives me like an E major kind of thing. So it just depends on the range the instrument's in. And then strategically, I can like figure out, okay, like I like what the open strings are doing here. I like what's available to me here, etc. So when I think about drop C, right, I have a couple open strings that certainly do work, right? I'm using the G. You can definitely use the E, right? But it's not going to be useful everywhere. That scale degree, right? It's nice in certain contexts, but it's not going to work over everything. However, there's so much to gain from right? Knowing what's available. And then I'll toggle in and out. So like you can get like a G minor kind of thing, which can interchange with C minor because, you know, they're fairly related. They're just separated by a fourth. So you can do that like parallel key thing. And something I'm really into lately is flipping the key center, like toggling the tonic between like a minor key center and a major key center, or at least flipping that chord. So every once in a while you hear me do this, right? Which then puts us at C major. And then I'm thinking about like C Phrygian dominant, right? This kind of sound. But I can very easily toggle between just by manipulating the third, and then that gives us sort of like a wormhole between both keys. So something really nice that you can do with your, you know, with your lead playing. So like if I'm droning a C, right? Right? Major third. So that's that modal interchange where you're just gently sort of moving a couple of scale degrees, but you don't sort of change out everything for the listener. You allow that note to drone and give everybody, you know, sort of like that, like you draw a straight line through the progression that way. And it allows you to tap into different emotions around, you know, right? And even here, if you're thinking about C major or C Lydian or something, whatever, right? Root, second, third, right? A lot of the time you'll grace over, right? You can use the flat third as, right? But you can certainly stand on it too, as long as you know how to support it, right? Now, something like this where I'm building tension, we can easily go C minor, or we could go, right, and do that like fake out and land back in the major key. Right, now here, flat 7, gonna give you that mixed Lydian sound. And this is why I think, like, even though maybe blues isn't as like applicable to like prog and stuff like that, although I mean you hear those sounds for sure, I think as a guitar player it's probably one of the healthiest like you know, if styles of guitar playing or genres are like food groups, or you know what I mean, like if you're thinking about it like nutrition, I think that like blues is probably one of the healthiest things to incorporate, even if the attitude isn't necessarily something that you play with conviction. Like for me, when I play blues, like I don't feel like I serve, you know, a lot of those like inflections with conviction. You know, to me they feel like cliches, right? But here, that's that moment, and that's an extremely powerful musical moment that you can extrapolate everywhere else. Blues is constantly toggling between right, and it's not just the third you can play with. You can actually do it with the six as well. I see somebody mentioning that as well. So you can kind of tease, you can tease Dorian. You can, you know, you can go in and out of like, you know, that's a great way to get into like a harmonic minor kind of sound. Right? And that third rising, that's that blues sound. So knowing about those accidentals, right? And then natural six. People ask about this often as well. Right, so as long as you know, as far as non-diatonic chord changes, which is, you know, like a lot of my stuff, you guys know, it's like very digestible. It's very inside. I very carefully pick and choose my moments in terms of toggling in and out between non-diatonic, you know, chords that don't necessarily share the same key center. But if you use sort of a common denominator approach, like let me show you here. Okay, this is I'm in drop C, so this is like an A minor thing, right? This is like your A minor 7, right? On standard, that would come up as a B minor 7, but we're down here, so that's how we're gonna do it. Okay, so if I focus on that open G and this guy, I can take liberties with the root and fifth structure. Right? Now the common denominator here is that ringing G. Right? Yeah, it is the lunatic chord. Yeah, exactly. Different key though. Up here, but right? That's how I'm doing it, and I'm just pedaling the bass. However, all of those changes are diatonic, so it's not the exact same thing. Right? So here, yeah, Gerald Steiner is in Canada. It's the best sparkling water. It's the one. What systems do you use to help visualize better? I don't know that I'm using a particular system, to be completely frank with you. I'm just using basic diatonic harmony, right? So, you know, here, right, I'm trying to think about, so like if we're not doing the fancy stuff, right? So A minor. So that would be my sixth chord, right? That's A Aeolian. Right? So then thinking in scale degrees, 6, 7, 1. So we know we're in C major for sure, because that's my one chord, right? 2. There's my Dorian sound. Right? Phrygian is here. 4, that's my Lydian. Right. So here we've got G mixo. And now we're back. Right? 6, 7, 1. Okay? So when we're talking about like this kind of stuff, right? So there I'm going from A to A flat. We know A flat's not in the key. So we have G, A, so this has no business being there. But if I'm playing 4 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I maintain the upper partials of this chord, I can manipulate root and fifth, and you won't feel as jarred by the idea. If we're gonna play melodically over top of that, we need to think about chord anatomy at that point, right? So A minor, we know we have a flat 3, flat 7. Right? Now if I go here, I'm thinking about it like a major chord, right? And in this case, I want to see it and hear it like Lydian. Right? 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 Same thing here. 1/2 step above versus you. Right? And this is, you know, this is a really basic way to incorporate like non-diatonic chord structures without sounding like you've just literally selected a random chord. I think that that's really important, right? And that same modal interchange applies Olly, what's up? Olly Collab is a legitimate reality. We actually wrote something when Olly stayed at my house a few years ago. We never finished it, but Olly Collab is probably a legitimate reality. That riff is a great example of that. I will get the kettle on, and I'll get the smash hit ready. I'll get the iPad charged up. But yeah, so like a riff like that, that'd be a great example. I'm gonna scratch that out. I found that last night. I'm gonna scratch that out today, I think. Matt, what's up, dude? Yeah, so something like this. Right? C minor, I'm thinking. Staying there. I bait you into C major. Right? Then we get this vibe. And then now it feels like we're in 6 chord, 5 chord in this key. Still addressing it that way because now we have, feels like Phrygian or something. And then back here, now it feels like C minor again. So it's just that like little bit of toggle to where, you know, you just adjust a few notes. So you go from making C feel like C minor, and then the most drastic change there would be putting the major third and getting the major vibe. But then when we change to this feeling like the key center, C is still a minor chord. Right? So it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of liquid. Like you can never really put your thumb on the pulse of exactly where it is, but I'm not changing everything. Especially here, gives you that really nice. Right, so that's kind of the idea with stuff like that. Yeah, and I really like toggling between like you know, mixo and and pardon me, Aeolian is a great way to do it. I didn't go to school. The extent of my theory knowledge would be getting really obsessed with theory after high school. I constantly reference Frank Gambale's Modes No More Mystery, which is like a classic video from the 80s where Gambale breaks down like how to make modes applicable for guitar players, specifically guitar players, taking the idea of, you know, the modal concept that you would learn on the piano and then making it kind of make more sense. So yeah, that one really helped. And then from there, I've just been sort of assimilating that into like the things I like about music and what I already kind of knew. You know, you take these things and you temper them with your intuition, I think, is the most, you know, healthy way to do things. Drop C. So yeah, you know, I've had a few people that I've studied with, and I will say touring with, you know, I mean, I spent a year on tour with Tosin, and I think that that's enough to shape any guitar player. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, I can guarantee you that Zach Wilde or Nuno or even Steve would tell you that being on tour with Tosin for a year, or just, you know, when they did Gen X, like, there's no way they didn't pick up anything off him. So I think, like, I'm just using him as an example, but, you know, being on tour with, I mean, all kinds of guys. I've picked up stuff from Mark from Bela Maya. I've picked up stuff from Robbie and Cam from The Contortionist. You know, these are the kind of things that, like, when you spend a month minimum on tour with somebody, you're going to learn some tricks. So it's just a combination of stuff like that, I think. You know, my theory knowledge isn't as expensive as some, and I don't know that that's necessarily like a, you know, a deal breaker for a lot of guys. I mean, there's a lot of guys that make really, you know, I'll give you an example. My pal Owain knows nothing of theory, which is actually kind of fucked when you listen to his music. Everyone should go check out the latest EP, by the way. And also Nick, for sure, and Jason, and, like, you know, the whole Way Forward cycle. We toured with so many amazing guys, like, yeah, Nick and Jason, Contortionist, Mario and Eric from Chon, you know, the BT Bam guys. I mean, when you spend every day in that environment, like, I don't know, like, theory is important, but I think it's really more so a tool for reverse engineering things. I'm not sure that it plays as much of a role in composing. I think I use intuition to find myself in situations, and then I use theory to reverse engineer. Or, like, you know, if I'm playing something that does have sort of you know, a not so obvious harmonic structure to it, or I need to think about, like, well, where does this go realistically? Where's another part? Where is this leading? Theory is a tool for deducing that, but I don't know that it's the driver of ideas. Yeah.